Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and the other history of the DC Universe. This is a particularly cool comic book. I did not get the physical copy because I completely missed it at my comic book store somehow. It's what happens when I'm just left to do this stuff by myself, unfortunately. Yeah, I didn't see it. I guess it was in a different place because of the size of the book or something. I don't know. I'm not sure why I didn't see it right away. Anyway, I was sent a copy of this by someone who asked to remain specifically anonymous, and yet I believe is authority figure enough for the comic book to be able to legally send me a PDF copy of the comic book. So I am going to actually get the physical copy of the book because it's really good. I really enjoyed the hell out of this, and I'm definitely looking forward to more of this. Anyway, let's get started on the comic book itself by beginning with who made the comic book. So, the stories by John Ridley, the layouts by Giuseppe Camuncoli, the finishes by Andrea Cucci. Anyway, did the best I could. Colors by Jose Villarrubia and letters by Steve Wands. The covers by Camuncoli and Marco Mastrazzo. That's an Italian name if ever I heard of one. And there's a variant cover by Jamal Campbell, a person who apparently does not particularly enjoy interviews. I was like, hey, Brett, I would love to interview you. He's like, oh, yeah, sure. Why? I'm like, because you're a comic book artist and, yeah. And he's like, oh, no, it feels kind of weird. I just do art. Okay, no problem. So anyway, we've got a really good book here, bro, and this feels like it's more of an introduction to the television series than anything else. You know what I'm saying? Because it's hard, it's impactful, and this works comic books or TV series. And I don't double check with Tony Isabella for everything Black Lightning related, although it wouldn't hurt if I did. But it really feels like this amazing story that I think that he would be genuinely proud of personally. It says that this is book one. I really hope that means that there's going to be a book two and so on and so forth, because this really goes up to the point where, like I said, in the television series, he kind of got back with his wife. Everything was cool, but then he started going back to being a superhero again. There's so much amazing work in this book. Starting off with the murder of his father, moving on to him slowly but surely developing his powers within him. Not entirely sure why. It never even goes into an explanation of how he gets the powers. But this book is deeply political without getting hard hitting into it. But if you're a lefty, you're going to hate this book. And if you're not lefty, if you're a Democrat, you're going to hate the concepts in this book. And if you're a right winger at all, you're probably going to hate this book also, because there are some serious criticisms of both sides in this, and they're great. But then when you get to the end of the book, you realize all those criticisms were wonderful and still rang strongly of truth, not some little Tinkerbell ding 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 ringing, no, like freaking Notre Dame sanctuaries level truth. And yet the book is so introspective that it makes you wonder if there was a lot of judgment. I'm going to comment on the idea that yesterday I saw a lot of chatter on Twitter, imagine that, about there being some place, some room, I can't remember what it's called, the clubhouse, I think it is, where you can go in and you're invited to voice talk about, certain things. And there was a room called Kevin Hart is Not Funny, which I agree. I never really got into his comedy, and his last comedy special, like, there was nothing where I laughed at. I actually turned it off midway. That's just my take on it. Whatever it is, what it is. You know what I'm saying? But Kevin Hart showing up and then blasting people seemed really weird. Kevin is a very interesting person because and this is important why I'm bringing Kevin Hart up. He puts people on blast all the time, and just by his very nature, just looking at his title on Twitter and wherever he goes, I work hard. If you work hard, you can be successful too. And working hard, hard working hard, blah, 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 blah. So you can't be successful if you don't work hard. Yeah, but what about working smart? Because I remember working 2 full-time jobs, busting my ass, not getting any sleep, barely ever seeing my family, much like Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning, was doing in this book. And it wasn't working smart at all. So working hard isn't the crux of it. I don't know. Maybe he's got a better reason for doing this, but Kevin Hart is one of those people where he's got a very divisive personality on a one-on-one kind of basis, as opposed to speaking to his audience while at a comedy show. Him talking to people and addressing people individually is weird because it I don't know, it just kind of turns people off. And I bring this up because that's a lot of how Jefferson Pierce was shown in this. You know, when you have a story about a black man, it seems like the story is supposed to be, hey, I'm always right, I'm never wrong, everything I do is perfect. And there's a lot of other things that will happen in a story. Case in point, when Superman shows up and says, you're doing things wrong. And basically, according to the newspapers and whatnot, yeah, it seems like he was. Was he? Maybe. You know what I'm saying? But like, if you're going to try and stop Black Lightning from doing what he does because of the way he does things, isn't Batman far worse? Oh, but what, he's your friend? Or is it because he's white? Honestly, you have to stop for a second and think about it, because this sort of thing did happen in the comic books. It's necessary to address these individual issues. So the conversation that was had was actually really cool, and I almost thought we were going to get a Dark Knight Returns version of Black Lightning for a hot minute. I mean, this is, after all, a Black Label book, and I was really feeling how this story was turning out. But Jefferson Pierce gets introspective, which is something that you simply do not see very often in black-themed comic books. You simply don't. And this is one of the most real, not realistic, one of the most real comic books that I've read in a really long time. The conversations that are had between the parties, between other parties, and by himself about Jon Stewart were so spot on. No matter which angle you took, no matter which conversation you're looking at in here, they were all very spot on, very realistic. These are conversations that are actually had. When one black man, case in point, Kevin Hart, gets himself to a level where he's making the kind of money that he's making and he's achieved the level of fame that he has, there's going to be the good comments and there's going to be the negative comments. There's going to be the lovers, there's going to be the haters, you know? And you have to remember that it's not the people in the stands that make or break the person or the gladiator in the ring. It's the gladiator himself and his peers. What do his peers think about him? The idea that one of the people who I respect the most in this world, Dave Chappelle, the fact that I don't appreciate Kevin Hart's humor is beside the point. I will still say that the man makes some solid points that I think he should address better, because he has the respect of Dave Chappelle. And I don't think that anybody who Dave Chappelle has respect for should ever just be written off. That includes Joe Rogan. You know what I'm saying? That you should never just write off somebody. Because I think that Chappelle is smart enough to know the person behind the conversations. This is kind of like that friends of friends thing, right? But I think that Kevin Hart, much like in this book, Black Lightning, comes to a level of introspection. I'm hoping that Kevin Hart will one day come to that level of introspection that we see here in this book. Because he realizes that him bringing down, even if it was just his thoughts, and he never did anything personally to this person, He never said anything personally to this person. He never, sent hate mail or a mean tweet. Never fired off a mean tweet to this person. He still had these thoughts, and that contributed to the way that he was looked at. It contributed to the way that um, John Stewart was looked at. And you get to see that in the way that his former student looks at him. The way that sometimes, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Sometimes you don't exactly have to be going towards hell for you to have, the good intentions that just went wrong. Sometimes it's simply your approach. And this is one of the things that matters. I try to be cool in my comic book reviews all the time, but every so often you get somebody who's just, no, screw you, you suck, and move on, right? Which isn't mature, but you can't expect that everybody's going to listen to every word of your review. You can't expect that everybody's going to understand where you're coming from, even though you try to explain it, right? They just might say, you don't like this book and I love this book, so screw you. Or you like this book and I hate this book, so screw you. There's always going to be those people. And they have to also have a little bit of introspection as well. But myself being introspective, much like eventually Jefferson Pierce became introspective with his age, I think that it was a really great moment when he goes up to when Black Lightning goes up to John Stewart and he says, hey, I judged you this way. He's like, yeah, it's fine. It's cool. Whatever. It is what it is. I have my own burden. You have your own burden. You know what I'm saying? And this isn't, I don't know, like, I hope that basically saying, like, I hope this is cathartic for you. I hope that this is helpful to you because it doesn't change a thing with me, you know? And I dug on that. Like the feeling that you get with the bond with these two. Boom. On top of that, I mean, you've got Kevin Coley and Kuchi. I think that's how you pronounce the name. Sorry. You've got these incredible artists. You got all of these incredible artists, boom, hitting up this comic book. But the layouts of the whole book, the way that it's done, like here's some art and here's some words on the side. There's certainly some talking in here, but it's all as though it's introspective. And I love it. Guys, here's John Ridley, who put together 12 Years as a Slave and many other really thought-provoking stories. And here's yet another one. And I am genuinely heartfelt impressed by how damn good this book was. I'm looking forward to future additions to this book. And I don't know that this qualifies, definitely not with this first issue, as a Dark Knight Returns level work for Jefferson Pierce. But I think that this is going to be good enough that it'll catch the attention of more fans who would be better suited to write that level of a story for this character. Every single character out there can have a Dark Knight Returns type story, or just, one of those stories that captures your attention and makes you always say, yeah, but have you ever read this? And Batman certainly has more of those kinds of stories than anybody else. Who doesn't? Who hasn't at one point said, yeah, but what about a Long Halloween version of Batman? You know what I'm saying? What about what do you call the Batman Who Laughs version? What about the for crying out loud, the Killing Joke version of Batman? The way that Batman approaches this, that, and the other thing, right? What about this Batman? What about that Batman? What about all these different versions? And it's great, and you could do very similar with Superman as well. How many of those do we have with Black Lightning? But it would be nice to have at least one, wouldn't it? This is right now not that book, but I hope that this gets enough fans together that it makes that book. Again, I with the reply, it is what it is. But again, to the individual who sent me this book and saying that you were really hoping to see my reaction to this book, understand that I think that this book was absolutely amazing. Fantastic job. I am genuinely impressed, as though I need to be impressed, right? But I was genuinely impressed by how good this book was. And I am especially honored seeing that, well, in case nobody noticed, I'm not actually black. So my opinion on this particular story simply should not matter nearly as well. It shouldn't have the same degree of importance as many other reviewers out there who I respect, right? So this, like, I genuinely see this as an honor being asked to look at this from my heart. So again, thank you. All that being said, definitely get this book. Definitely get the physical copy of this book. How could we not? You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it was definitely accidental that I missed in the This Week in Comics pointing out this book. It was 100% an accident. So yeah. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. I'll talk to you all later. Get this book and read this story because I personally I loved it. Especially if you're older or even if you're younger and you want to know what it's like to be older. This is one of those books where it lets you see an opinion, multiple opinions, and the evolution of that opinion. And that is what makes us human. Because unlike the instinctual animals, we have the ability to formulate an opinion and either fully change the opinion or evolve with the opinion and let the opinion itself evolve, change even. And you get to see the understanding of said opinion. So this book is what it feels like to grow up. And I loved this, absolutely loved this. Can't wait for more of this. Talk to you guys later. Watch the video or watch an ad and like the video. You know, that's typical stuff. And talk to you later. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.